Sometimes I wonder if we understand Islam as it should be understood.
Sometimes it's hard to strengthen our faith amidst all these distractions.
Sometimes we're confused about what we want and what our next steps should be.
Sometimes you need to take a moment and reflect on what matters most.
And because we live in such uncertain times with so much going on around us, I guess sometimes we just gotta sit down and talk about it. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So growing up, we were always told about the importance and blessings of Jama'at work. And when we were at Atfal, we were always given some small tasks and duties to do, and we were so excited to be doing them. As we grow older, we see that a lot of Khuddam are dormant. They're not giving any time whatsoever to Jama'at work. What are some of the causes?
I as a guide, I identified a few reasons, and they may be just individuals or khuddam in their families. They tend to end up being the breadwinners, or their families have to rely on them, and so they become so in tune with just work that they can't balance anything else. And that's one example. What do you know, Jalees?
I feel like it'll be a chain within the family. Like, for example, if a family is not active to begin with, and they started getting the tifl involved, and he's getting involved with the classes, when he reaches a certain age of 15, 16, he won't get involved at all because the father figure is not involved in the Jamaat. And it always starts from home. If anyone from Jamaat is going to reach out to that individual, it's not going to make a difference unless people within the family or the household are active, whether it's coming from the nurturer, like the mother, or the person who's giving, the role model being the father in that situation, or whether it's for a girl the mother being the role model. If the parents aren't active, then there's no push towards them.
They probably just don't understand why it needs to be done. They probably just think of it as just a mundane tasks and things that are just a waste of time now, right? Something extra that they just have to get up, get ready, and go and do. But they haven't been taught the essence of what Jama'at work actually entails and what the beauty of it is and what the results of it can be and the impact that it has on our lives after we do commit time to Jamaat.
And to be fair, when you're a child and someone tells you about Jamaat work, the first thing that usually comes to your mind is door-to-door visits. I remember being a tifl and your guide will call you, like, you have to do flyer distribution. And you're thinking about going door-to-door, giving random people flyers. And when you grow up thinking of that, you're just going to get scared when someone says Jamaat work. They don't think about basketball tournaments, or they don't think about, Muslim out, or, like Muslim out tournaments or national ijtimas. That's the first thing that comes to their mind. So it's giving that positive image as well, and then showing the blessings afterwards as well. Like when people dedicate their time, for example, people working in Dar Hall, constantly working in the Department of Accounting or something, and then they realize at the age of 18, 19 that I want to go into accounting. And because of the blessings of working in that department, they're able to go into that field. Those blessings are shown in different ways, but it's our duty and our understanding to actually show it to the youngsters in the Jamaat.
I think also what may happen is just a phenomenon. Like if somebody's generally lazy, then they're going to be lazy towards Jamaat work as well. But it doesn't mean that they're necessarily active in other parts of their life. They may be just as lazy in other parts of their life. It's just, they just think that, oh, now it's one more thing that we have to do. So it's like, it's not necessarily Jamaat work that maybe somebody's put off by, but it's just, they're just generally lazy and it's just become a habit for them. So I guess what I'm trying to say is they probably have a bigger problem. It's not Jamaat work, it's just their entire life, they're just lazy, right?
There are khuddam that, now that you bring it up, are possibly characterized or personalized like that. And so I think like another reason is just like kids are more like Itfal, like they were more pure. They had no other resources or responsibilities. They had no other financial freedom, and so Jamaat was their only avenue. And so, but when they start growing older, they start accessing more resources, more options. So they feel like this freedom they have is their access or their way out. And so it's great you brought that up, that how we portray Jamaat work, because it's not just flyer distribution. It's like having going out to Timmy's late at night after Isha and just having a talk. People forget about that. That a lot of Jamaat work is just brotherhood, like going out with your brothers. And so that's what I wanted to share, is that people that even dormant, like Khuddam brothers, that we should tell them, and they should know that what like true Jamaat work is, that like establishing a brotherhood, you know, in this Jamaat, and then using that to sort of, or using that as a catalyst to sort of propel our own spiritual reformation.
Yeah, and you guys talked about like a few good things. And I think like the discussion right now has been kind of with the youth and some of the obstacles they face. But I think that especially with Khuddam or any MDs that are in post-secondary education, a big obstacle for them is their education. You know, they have tests, they have assignments, they have midterms, they have careers to focus on. So when they receive a call from their guide sub, it's a big debate. You know, do I pick up this call or do I focus on my work? But I think one thing that is a big misconception amongst our youth is that, you know, Jamaat is a catalyst, like you mentioned, for so many different things. We're involved with so many organizations, the Canadian Blood Services, Run for Vaughan, all these things. There's so many different skills, and whether it's communication, collaboration, networking, like you learn from Jamaat work itself. I remember being a youngster, older guys were always telling me that, you know, I excel at my job because of Jamaat work. And I never understood that as when I was younger, but going through the process, seeing how we're so involved in different organizations, you pick up these skills. So I think that, yes, there's definitely a spiritual aspect of Jamaat work. It protects you. It saves you from all sorts of evils. But at the same time, you also develop as a professional, as someone, as all these skills you can use in your professional life. Yeah.
I think this point you brought up is really interesting because according to, for example, commentary of the Holy Quran, Hazrat Muslim Radhiyallahu Ta'ala Anhu writes that when somebody spends out of their wealth, you know, like we spend out of everything that God has given us. So we spend our time, we spend our wealth, we spend out of the knowledge that we've been granted, we spend, if we have health, we spend out of that as well. And the reason is, I mean, why do we give financial sacrifice? So that we can bless our wealth. So if we spend out of our time, then the rest of our time is also blessed. That's what people might not realize because they think that it might be a waste of time. But little do they know that the rest of their time is being blessed, and then whatever they focus on afterwards, that's also being blessed. So like, I mean, if students have, you know, tests coming up, and I mean, it is difficult being a student in post-secondary and then having to do so much Jamaat work as well. But I think if we come at it from this angle that the rest of our time is going to be blessed, if we give time to Jamaat, then it just opens up our horizons, right?
I think mentioning the student aspects, we're all students in our day. There is a global phenomenon, and it's due to the social media rise, is that students are just don't know how to study, or they don't know how to time manage, right? And so they become overwhelmed with the responsibility, and then they back out from Jamaat work. I think what I've learned from Jamaat work is that whatever priority I set, if school was my priority, I didn't put Jamaat number 1 or number 2. I put it neck and neck. Because for me, it's that Jamaat work is as important as to whatever else I have in my life. Because I'm nothing without it. And it's taught me so many valuable skills like time management, organization, sort of realizing that time is so valuable that you shouldn't waste it. And procrastination is big among students. And that's the reason is that we tend to procrastinate, and sometimes I noticed as a younger student, I would set out time to procrastinate, and then it's funny because it's funny now, but it's sad because when you would get a phone call from your guide and said, listen, we need to give out time, and then you realize, oh man, I can't give out time, but you just procrastinated. So using your time, everybody has the same 24 hours, just making sure that you set out whatever time you have, you set out the same for Jamaat work. And what does Jamaat work mean? I mean, like, we haven't like operationalized the term. What would you say, Murabbi Sahab?
I mean, Jamaat work entails, I mean, people would think that it's just, you know, for example, in duties like in MTA, like Jamaat, that would be Jamaat work, working in MTA and coming and, you know, setting things up and, you know, doing camera work and all that kind of stuff. But it entails a lot of other things as well. Like, for example, when you were speaking about brotherhood, I think this is something that attaches itself to Jamaat work. So although we may be doing Jamaat work, like sitting in an office and doing paperwork if we're working in finance office, we're doing Jamaat work. But then, you know, we're in that environment that is helping us with our deen and our religion, right? So it's conducive to that environment. There's 1,000,001 different ways to serve Jamaat, right? Like youth might not even know this. They might think that, you know, Jamaat work, as we were saying before, people might think it's flyers when Khuddam al-Amdiya calls you, you know, wear your shirts and that say that, you know, like the Messiah has come and give out the flyers and stuff like that. Tika, that's Jamaat work in one way, but what is attached to this activity that you are doing? That's what's important, right? Otherwise, the Jamaat work could be anything. It could be something mundane, it could be something exciting, it could be anything, but what comes attached to it is what's most important. And I think that way, if we look at it from that perspective, Jamaat work becomes a very powerful means of safeguarding ourselves from social vices, right? And social evils that so many youth get involved in. So if they were to give more time to Jamaat, they would sort of thrust themselves into that environment that sort of helps them spiritually. Otherwise, back to your question, what does Jamaat work entail? It's a million and one different things. It could literally be anything and everything, right?
That's a good point. Like, whenever there's an environment that you want to stay away from, the best means is Jamaat work. And a lot of times, you know what, like just going to do one thing like a food drive, it'll push you away from the bad environment. That waste of time, the vain desires are getting pushed away at that point. And you know, it constantly helps us. Like certain times, like a khadim who's inactive or lazy, you take him up from one thing, he'll find a passion in something. You know, like, guys, so we need to focus on this and that. And I'm like, where did this passion come from, right? And a lot of times you'll see the lazy khuddam or khuddam that are completely inactive, they become active because you reach out to them once or twice. You know, and the idea of reaching out to them for Jamaat work comes because of, you know, like our teaching. Like, for example, in the Quran we're taught, you know, we are raised as the best of man to do good works. You know, but then what is good works? You know, like a food drive, a blood drive, it can only go so far, right? Reaching out to a khadim who is inactive totally and not doing anything with his life, pulling them forward, that's an amazing work, you know, for not a department holder, but anyone, you know, and focusing on those individuals and pushing them towards Jamaat work, it keeps them away from the vain desires and a materialistic world and whatever it is, and pushing them towards education. Because I remember when Sadr Saab once visited our school at New York University, he reminded us that we are nothing without education. If we're not going to educate ourselves, then as a Jamaat member, we're not going to be valuable. So like when people get involved in Jamaat work, they see the understanding, you know, why do we have to educate it? Why do we become a murabbi? Why do we become a certain role or a post? Why do we need these things? Because Hazur is constantly reminding us that we have to be the best at what we can be. And if we drift away from Jamaat work, we don't learn those lessons. And like being the best at something, whether it's something small, like you could be the best at like your sales job or whatever, but then you move forward from that. And unless people tell you you have to be better and better, then you're not going to get that excitement, that passion that gets created from Jamaat work as well.
Me and Khizar actually like did a lot of Jamaat work together. He's a couple years older than me, and so just entailing the essence, you mean like the importance, but also the essence of Jamaat work and what the value it can give to you. And like I was struggling through a point in time in my life, and so I went to Khizar, and Khizar told me that, bro, just do Jamaat work and focus hard in school, and whatever you desire in school, it'll come to you. Just don't compromise it. And so I went through with it. I had a khidmat, or I had a service that I had to do, and I tried to fulfill it to the best of my ability. And whatever problems I had in school, whatever I was going through, I persevered through it. And where I'm at, alhamdulillah, now is like I never thought about even being at this point of time or using this as a catapult. Like I never see myself 2 years ago. But so even like going back, like having a support system in Jamaat is what also like is that Jamaat work. Like when you're serving the community, you get to network with brothers in your own Jamaat, right? And you get to know brothers. Like you live in Mississauga, I live in Mississauga, you live in Bradford, he lives in Toronto, and so we get to meet each other throughout this Jamaat work. No matter what's going around in our lives, right? People come and go. Like we get laid off at work, fired. Like people come and go at work, and people come and go in school too. High school people change. But have you ever noticed that Jamaat people never change? You come to the same events, Sirat al-Nabi Jalsa, Muslimat tournament, our brothers are always there.
Yeah.
And I feel like they'll be there until our last breath. Like even if they move to another country, they'll still be there. And this is the value it gives to us because it gives us a sense of community.
I think Khizr is really proud, you know, because you came to him, and now like as you're speaking, you know, I see like a tear come out of his eye. Like I'm so proud of you.
Well, so, like, you touched on like two great things. Number one, the aspect of brotherhood. Like if you reflect, you know, your closest friends are people you go to the masjid with, people you break fast with, people you play ball with at Muslim tournament. You know what I mean? Like these are the guys that, you know, push you to be a better person, and you pray with them and all this stuff. You sacrifice with them, and there's no like stronger bond than with your, like, you know, MD brothers, right? So I think like that's an extremely valid point, and you know, that mentorship and that support system, a lot of people don't have that. If you look at, you know, our fellow students in like universities, you know, depression is huge amongst these guys, right? And a lot of it comes from the fact that they don't have a genuine support system. They don't have anyone to turn to. I know that something goes wrong, okay, I can call my guys up, I can call this guy, that guy. You know, they have my best interests in mind. Like, there's such a comfort in that. And number two, you mentioned the fact that prioritizing Jama'at work. You know, it's funny. If you sit down and actually time yourself when you're studying, you'll see that like 3 hours will be spent on YouTube and 2 hours will be spent on actually doing your work, right? And picking up your Qaid's call, doing that hour, 2 hour task, like that's not really like a huge deal if you actually just analyze it minute by minute, right? So I think that when someone says they're too busy for Jama'at work, I don't think it's valid, because when you have a priority, you make time. You make time to eat, you make time to do anything if it's a priority for you. And I think that, you know, if you prioritize your studies and you prioritize your faith, Allah Ta'ala will bless you in so many ways. And there's been so many, you know, instances where we know of students who have excelled because of that. So I think that Jama'at work is such a blessed like catalyst, and it'll help you attain your wildest dreams. So I think you hit the nail on the head.
These points you guys brought up about how our brothers are always there when we go to those Jama'at events. You know how over time, as you grow older, you sort of realize that it's more and more difficult to make friends. You know, when we were in elementary school, it's like everybody knew each other. And then high school, there would be pockets of like different group friends. And then when you go to university, it's more difficult. And then afterwards, when you go to work, it's even more difficult. That's one of the blessings of Jama'at work as well, is that it's very easy to make friends because you resonate with so many different people. It's like your goals are all the same, right? Like you're working towards that one main thing, and you're all striving towards that. I think people might not see the beauty in this, right? Like, it's very difficult to make friends, but then with Jama'at Ahmadiyya, it's not difficult at all because everybody's your brother, right?
Absolutely.
I feel like when you're going to these events over and over time, it's much easier to grab people that are completely inactive as well. And when it comes to like making friends and whatnot, you'll notice that there's certain Khuddam who will have a lot of friends, but there's still that sense of loneliness there, right. You know. And with Jamaat, it's like that sense of happiness starts to come back slowly and slowly, because we were talking before, like seeing that light at the end of the tunnel. You know, like when you're praying with your friend, you know, there's that feeling is not caught anywhere else. You know, you can be playing basketball, doing whatever, but when you're praying with that individual, praying with that friend, and then you finish your prayers, you can talk about your goals and your aspects and what you're trying to achieve, where you're trying to reach, and you'll notice that, like, no matter what it is, that the dua is always for one another. You're always praying for one another, you know, and it kind of helps us to push ourselves towards that goal, towards that dream, and towards that idea that, you know what, we're all one under the banner of Khilafat, right? And right now, we're going to USA when Hazur was here, and you were seeing groups of people from all across the nation, you know, and it wasn't just like Pakistanis, people who outside Pakistani, but it's nothing like that, you know, and it's like different groups, different ages. We were sitting outside the masjid for about 2 hours. There were 3 kids beside me, all around like age 6, 7, and 8, sitting right beside me. And I was thinking, you know what, how is this happening? It's because of the banner of Khilafat, right? And we see the strength growing with us and that fire. And one example that was given last year at a speech is that we're all like flames, we're all like candles. A light bulb can go out, but it can never be lit again. But a candle can be lit. You can pass on a candle to another person and just light his candle once again. And that Khilafat is that flame, right? And we remind ourselves through writing letters to Hazur, through, you know, the contact with Hazur, Mulakat with Hazur, to bring them back and engage into Jamaat events and whatnot. And once again, it always comes back to Khilafat and Jamaat works.
So, I mean, if somebody is not involved in Jamaat activities, what's the first step that they can take after listening to you guys and all of the, you know, great things that you have said about Jamaat work and how it has changed your lives and your life as well? So what could somebody who has no contact with Jamaat, no, you know, giving time whatsoever, what can he do? What's the first step that he would take? Who can he reach out to?
I mean, he can reach out to his guide, number one. And I feel that the most basic thing is just come to the masjid, come to the namaz center, come for namaz. And namaz is 5 times a day. you have 5 opportunities in a day to come to the namaz center, the masjid, to read namaz. If you need a ride, your guide is always the one that say, I'll make a way to get a ride. If you say you want to come to the masjid, we'll make a way. And so for me, the basic thing is that when you come for namaz, you're in unity in this congregational prayer. And then afterwards, like, people just don't go home. And it's ironic because I was with a non-Ahmadi brother last night, and he said that whenever he went to the masjid and he would go pray, he said nobody would talk after, everybody would just go home. And so we are blessed with being under the banner of Khilafat. We never think about these small things. But for him, because he came to Baitul Islam and he saw the difference in the 2 masajid, he said, this is incredible. And so this is like small things that we don't realize, even our dormant brothers don't. And so just showing them that little things like this, like after namaz, just hanging around and then maybe deciding to do something else, like spontaneously, that itself is like just above and beyond just namaz. And so that's the first step I would take.
Okay. Rabbi Saab, I think you raised a very important question. You know, how can someone be involved in Jamaat? I think that because there's so many departments, there's so many niches in Jamaat that there's a place for everyone. One small example, Majlis Ansar Sadal and Qalam. We were all like writers of that group. You know, Khuddam can just write a simple letter and reach to millions of Canadians across the country, right? So that's a small example of just, you know, just taking 20 minutes of your day, writing a small letter about whatever's in the news and having a meaningful impact. So whatever skill set you have, and I think that the diversity of skill sets is a big asset for our Jama'at work as well, that there's always a place for any khadim to get involved and really exercise and utilize his skills for khidmat.
I feel like especially with this, like there's different age groups as well. Like Khuddam al-Ahmadiyya starts from 15 to 40, which means that in every department you can have different age groups.
Right.
So like when you see a person who's not active, if he's the age of 20, you can't say, you know what, I have no one to reach out with, reach out to him with. You know, there's always going to be different Khuddam, different members of the Jamaat in your Nazimeen or, you know what, in different departments that'll reach out to that person, right? A lot of times you'll see that if there's only older guys in an amla, it's very hard to get youngsters involved. And vice versa, if there's only young guys, it's very hard to get the older guys. So if there's a mix and match, you know, whether it's for Ishat, whether it's for like Waqadim or Khidmat Khalq, it'll help engage all Khuddam, right? But at the same time, it'll also motivate them as well. A lot of times, you know, we've seen if there's lazy Khuddam, one way to do it is to do a house visit. One thing we're doing for this year is just house visits across the board, right, nationwide. And we've seen that, you know what, you go to a khadim, no one's visited him, he gets involved again. It's because of that age group. And if you see a kid's not active at the age, after the age of 16, it's because no one from that age group is reaching out to him. Everyone over the age of 20 is going like, hey, come outside, come outside. You just want to chill with a, you know, like an adult or a 20-year-old or a 25-year-old. So when that age group gets involved, you know, and pushes them towards that work, that one passion that he has, it'll get them involved. And it touches back to the point where you said that, like, you know what, like when they find their passion, regardless of the terms, it'll get them involved. Yeah. And then once again, it leads back to like, how can we basically be role models in the Jamaat to get them engaged, you know, and it comes back to the point of the Nizam Jamaat, you know, what are we getting from our Khalifa down to our Sadr, down to our Qaid, and to the smaller groups as well. If we don't follow that, then we kind of disassociate ourselves, you know, and because we're the backbone of Jamaat, Khuddam in this backbone of Jamaat, it actually helps us engage all Khuddams of different age groups as well.
And so you mentioned like being role models and like being a sort of like older brother wing over our brothers. Speaking on that, like I have a couple of grade 12 youth that are pursuing higher education, and they don't know what to do. And so I told them that, look, reach out to me, tell me what you need help in. I don't promise you all the answers, but I do promise that I will support you in whatever pursuit you have. Just reach out to me. And we sat down one day at a McDonald's, and he told me that he doesn't know what to do, and his parents are saying do this, but he's not too sure. I said, what do you have in mind? He said he wants to do construction management. I said, listen, I'll handle it. I can get you in touch with someone that has done the program or has gone to the school, and he can mentor you and give you the answers. Because when I was in grade 12, I'm the oldest son or sibling in the family. I didn't have nobody to ask questions to. And so just engaging with our Khuddam and telling them that we want to support you and just be in communication with us. It's all right if sometimes they say, listen, man, I just need some space. I can't make it. That's okay. Just don't like block our number. Or don't like miss our call, let it ring, right?
Yeah.
It's okay to say pick up the phone and say, not today. And we'll be totally cool with that. Yeah. We're here to support you and guide you, and that's our message to our Khuddam, right?
I think people who do Jamaat work, they see it as a privilege. Eventually, it comes down to, we're actually honored to be doing this. Whereas other people who have not done Jamaat work, they'll see it as a waste of time. So I think changing that perspective is very necessary. And I guess coming back full circle, for example, in the beginning, you were speaking about how dormant Khuddam, they may come from families who don't do any sort of Jamaat work. So it's just not a trend within their household as well. Khulafa have explained to us as well that one of the best ways to safeguard your future progeny is if you are involved in the khidmat-e-deen as well, right? And you're helping advance the message of the Prophet Muhammad. So I think for youth to understand this, it's very important. And then practical steps as well is that there's 1,000,001 ways to serve. It's just a matter of, getting up, managing your time and starting. And then eventually you'll start to see blessings come in your life. And that will be Allah Ta'ala telling you that because you got up and you walked towards me, then I'm going to run towards you, as per ahadith that we learned. So that was a great discussion, Jazakallah, for the points that you guys made. And may Allah bless the Jamaat work that you guys are doing. And hopefully you guys can bring more youth towards the Jamaat, through Jamaat work.
मुझे कुछ कहना है पर है ये शर्त के ज़ाए मेरा पे